Hey guys, this is Dinosaur Drawer, and this is the second part on how to draw the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3. So what you're seeing here is that um, it might look like um, this foot is bigger than this one, but in reality it's actually not. What you're seeing here is the shadow actually going up a little farther between the toes, but it is actually covered with skin over here. So, for example, it would be covered with shadow over here. That's just a good way to look at it. But there is one thing off about this drawing, and it is that this Juno, Jew claw, whatever you might call it, has to be a little lower, like this. All right. So that's that done, and I'm actually going to um, place this hand a little bit farther back. Just place it at a slightly different place, I guess. Adjust the shape a little bit. And everything. So it's almost the same actually, but it's just the shape has been changed just a slightly bit. It's nothing major. Alright. So now I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Just gonna go over it, find the elbow over there, and try and get the right shapes in. And also make sure you do get his shoulder in, because that's quite an important part of the Spinosaurus. He has some very strong big shoulders, and I'm gonna erase this part because we're gonna have to draw a chest area about over here, something like this, and then we're gonna go over into this shoulder. Can't really see too much of this shoulder because it's behind the creature that you're drawing. Shape like that, and then a shape like this, elbow over there, and over here would be his wrist. And we can see a lot more from this hand than from this one, because it's slightly at a different angle. But to be really honest, I still don't like the way that this hand is showing. So I'm just gonna try and adjust it just for one more time, just a tiny little bit, make it a little bit bigger, make it seem a little bit bigger at least. So when you're drawing difficult things and difficult creatures and poses and everything, I find it better to start drawing simple shapes so that you can get the right shapes and correct looking aspects of the drawing right. Alright, so now I want to focus on his head a little bit more, and basically what I want to adjust is the way that it's supposed to look a little bit different. Or maybe it isn't. Well, it's slightly at a different pose and angle than my other sketch. I mean, I'm talking about his head right here, and his head is also a little bit bigger, but the overall drawing is also a lot larger, so I don't think there's a lot wrong with that. Well, actually, let's keep his head like it is, because I really do like the way his head looks. So for his neck, just draw it like this. And over here, about over here, we're gonna get into his sail. And I do want to make his sail a little bit bigger, because it's supposed to end a little bit behind his hind leg, so over here. So I'm just gonna try and make it look a little bit bigger, like so, and maybe make his whole tail a little bit bigger as well. Just making it a little longer and everything. And now it just gets bigger and bigger until we are at this point right there. So now we just want to draw a couple of areas, shapes like this. And that makes the sketch about done, I guess. So now we can get his teeth in, and his teeth are very long but still very slender. So pay attention to that. I might zoom in a little bit for that. Alright, so his teeth they start very small, but they are very long and very slender, very distinct of the Spinosaurus. Alright, and now just do the exact same thing for the upper jaw. And let's see, I might have drawn the upper jaw a little bit wrong. Yeah, so what I keep noticing is this little area over there. Just adjusting it a little bit, making this line a little straighter. Like that. And then just start drawing your teeth. And over here they're still very small. Once you get more in front of, to the front of his upper jaw, they get bigger and bigger. Like this. Alright, so I'm gonna erase this again, this upper area, so that I can get the lines a little bit more clean looking. Okay, so this is looking quite good so far. Now we can finally get into more detail. So this part, this video might actually become 3 parts long. So there's a line going from here to over here, and then there's another line going from here to there. Then let's see, we have a line from here to there. And now we can get into some shadowing. So the light source is on this side of the drawing, and the shadowing will be on the other side of the drawing, the other side of the dinosaur. And that's not too difficult to do because there's not a lot of areas where there will be a lot of shadow. But there's still something that I did forget, and that's the dew claw over here, because you can still see it over there. Almost like the little raptor claw. Alright, so we're gonna start with drawing shadow over here on this side of his body, and there's also going to be a lot of shadow underneath his body, so that means that this whole area would probably be very dark, and with that I mean very dark. Only a couple of highlights, just leaving a few little highlights, and everything else will be very dark except for the hand. Only on the underside of his fingers will there be a lot of shadow, but not on the actual hands. I mean not on the inside of the actual hands. So this will be highlighted. Like that. Now on the top of his snout, only this area will be darkened. Over here as well. Just a tiny little bit. Of course, inside of his mouth will be a lot of shadow. And then, let's see, I kind of drew this wrong a little bit actually. I want to adjust that a little bit because I think that this is supposed to be a little bit more like this. It gives it a completely different look. So I have to erase it again. Yeah, this looks a lot better. His head is looks a lot smaller and a lot more accurate. Alright, so there will be a lot of shadow over here. And of course underneath his lower jaw will be a lot of shadow. We'll have to darken the lines for his jaws a little bit. So yeah, this line will have a lot of contrast in it, a lot of shadow, and this line as well actually. And there are going to be a couple of lines like this one over here, and there will be a lot of detail actually over here. A lot of scaly lines going down from his head like this. And that's actually going to be detail of most of this whole drawing. Just a couple of shadowy lines, and that will make up the skin texture of the Spinosaurus itself. So he does have a white stripe going from his head all the way back to this area of his body, and also into his fin, his sail I mean. And also this area will be a lot lighter as well. So just drawing that little bit of detail. So yeah, it seems like I really had to erase a lot for this drawing, but I believe that at the end it looks pretty good. I mean the actual sketch of the drawing, at least. Okay, so now I'm just well, let's just go for the shadow first and then go into the more detailed things. So there's gonna be a lot of shadow over here. Then there will be a lot of shadow over here as well. From his knee till this area. Then the this area of his leg will be mostly shadowed in. Until about over there. There will be a little bit of highlight over there. Then there will be a lot of shadow between the toes, obviously, and this shadow actually goes up quite far, like what you would see on most of the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. But bear in mind that it might look like this foot is larger than this one, but in reality it's just it isn't, because it goes up a lot farther like this. You might actually draw in a little bit of that shadow just to make a little bit of an indication to that little bit of detail. So this line will be shadowed in quite dark. Then we have a little bit of shadow underneath his shoulder muscle over here and over here. We have a lot of shadow over here. Alright, and then from his shadow, his shoulder, the shadow goes up like this a little bit, because his shoulder muscle is actually blocking the sunlight from coming to this side of his muscle. And then let's see, so this area will be shadowed on the under side, I guess, but we do have a couple of highlights over there, so pay attention to where the highlights are. So that's actually going to be a highlight. And then the muscles just go on like something like this. But we're not getting into that yet. First, just getting the right shadows in, so that we can work with it. Alright, it's starting to look pretty okay. And there's going to be shadow on this side of his foot as well. Alright, so that's the basic shadow for this area of his body, and we have his knee over here. We have a lot of shadow over here as well. Shadow like this. Maybe a tiny bit of a shadow over here, but not too much. And let's see, now we can just, yeah, this toe will be completely covered in shadow because it's the sunlight is blocked from this toe over here. So that's basically the reason why. And also just goes on like this for a little bit because the sun is still continued to be blocked by this big toe muscle. And I would say it's almost the same for this toe over there. And let's see, 21 minutes, so we can still do quite a lot, I guess, with this drawing. This little Juno would be shadowed also a little bit, and that's going to be it for now. Well, no. We still have some areas. Let's see. So what we're gonna see is a lot of shadow between those. So in between every bump we have an area that's supposed to be shadowed. And I'm gonna put my paper in an angle. So I'm sorry for you guys if you don't really see what's going on, but this is just to make the drawing look a little bit more accurate. And actually this is supposed to point down a little bit more, starting to point down. So something like this. So now I can start off with drawing a lot of wrinkles around his eye, and actually getting his eye in a little bit better so that it's better to see, and put those wrinkles in everywhere just to add for that little bit extra detail. Okay, so we're not gonna do too much on his face yet because we still have to get the pattern and everything right. So we are going to focus on doing a little bit more detail to the rest of his body with doing those lines again, going with those lines again. So the lines actually go this way from here. And they go around his arm and his whole shoulder muscle. And we have a muscle over here, by the way, like this, which also leaves a little bit of shadow underneath it. And then the skin on his belly just goes kind of like this. Yeah, and that's my dog. Alright, so we're starting off with drawing just a couple of lines, and this is going to be his skin texture for now. But later on we're going to start darkening some of those lines, and that will kind of create a more detailed, better looking, more realistic skin, like what I did over here. So that's basically what I'm gonna do right now. And in my opinion, this is one of the best ways to draw dinosaur scales and dinosaur skin, because you can always just go in and put some scales everywhere, of course. But you do need to make sure that you don't go too overboard, which I actually did at some places. Don't want to go too much, because it's also nice to have some areas with not too much of stuff going on. It's nice to have that kind of let's call it a yin yang kind of feeling in your drawing, where too much of something isn't right or too little of something isn't right either. But if you manage to find a balance between those things, then your drawing will look a lot better. So again, this is just going overboard with too much of shadows. I mean, too much of a too dark tone in the drawing. It's also good to have a couple of highlights in it. And just make sure you do follow the lines. I mean, do follow the shape of the body with your lines. So don't just put straight lines in there. Make them curved a little bit at some areas. And I'm starting to smudge my drawing a little, so I'm just gonna take a piece of paper, fold it to a point where I can put my hand on it and use it to not smudge too much. So yeah, basically I'm just trying to keep a highlight over there. But what I do want to do is put some darker scales along the way on his back, following the line of his sail, because that's what the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus does have. And he has a couple, and it goes down a little bit more. And it's not it's not like he has those dark lines on his back, but he does have some kind of a pattern, which will be hard to draw if I don't do this first. And it kind of gives the same effect, if you know what I'm trying to say. So on top of his back, the back of his neck, it's a little bit too dark, so I'm just erasing that and putting down those dark scales again, but except now it looks a lot darker, and that's what it's supposed to look like. And you can still just go in and put some skin texture in if you'd like to. Make sure you use randomness as well. A lot of randomness. That will make your drawing look a lot better. And make sure you do erase some of the lines that aren't there, which are not supposed to be there. Like there was a line right there, it kept annoying me for quite some time, but now it's gone. So alright, so we are at 31 minutes. I will be making a third part for this drawing, and I'm pretty sure that 3 parts will do. So if you liked the video, leave a like, comment below what you think about the video and the drawing in general, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss a single video. So this was Dinosaur Drawer, and goodbye.